Hey everybody, welcome to Fail-Flix. This time around, I'm reviewing a movie called The Killer Shrews, circa 1959. It was shot around, well, actually back to back with another movie by the same director, Ray Kellogg, called The Giant Gila Monster. Both movies are on a collection that I got for Christmas called Attack of the Killer Bees. It's a DVD set with a bunch of killer bee movies from the 50s and early 60s. One of the movies on there is Ega, The Name Written in Blood. I've actually seen it before, and I reviewed it on my written site, Fail-Flix.com. I'll put the link below. This movie is very indicative of its time. 1950s was a time where you were seeing a lot of independent B movie, monster movies. 3D was just coming around, and the kids would flock to the theater for the weekend. That's what you did, is you watched the monster movies. It was before the era of the rubber suit, when that was getting really big, which we can kind of thank Toho Studios for, the Godzilla movies. And Ray Kellogg at the time was the head of the 20th Century Fox effects department. He was actually the head of that department for most of the 50s. So he actually did the effects in his own movie, and they weren't really that bad. So the plot of the film is that Captain Thorne Sherman is on his way to the island with his first mate Rook in his ship, which is actually a boat. And it's the kind of boat a dude would have to take his girl out for the weekend on the water. So what the fuck he thinks he's going to haul out to the island supply-wise in this thing is beyond me, but if you can make it work, dude, go for it. Right then and there you can tell what you're in for. Very low budget movie, and you pretty much have to suspend some of your disbelief when you're watching it. So they get on the island, and right away you can tell that something's off. Thorne is wondering why everyone's acting so skittish and weird. Dr. Craigus and his daughter Anne, who takes an immediate interest to Thorne, screw that, she throws herself at him like a cheap jacket. Or they're there with his Dr. Thorne's assistant, Dr. Baines, and then he also has another assistant, Jerry, who is Anne's ex-fiance. So there's kind of a love triangle thing going on, because, yeah, it's really not important to the movie in the slightest. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. They make it more important in the film than it really needs to be. What's going on is Dr. Craigus explains to Thorne is that he is doing experiments to shrink down the size of animals so that they consume less and therefore could live longer. He wants to eventually do this with the human population. Good luck with that, buddy. I'm 6'3", I'm 200 plus pounds, and I am happy with being large. Thanks. He brings out a shrew to show to Thorne, and Thorne doesn't know what he's looking at. So he's like, why are his teeth all to the front, and so on and so forth. And Craigus describes every attribute just short of calling it a fucking shrew. This is really what the writing in the film is like. It's almost as if they really didn't know how to keep the plot moving, so they just kind of wrote whatever. And what it ends up happening is the movie is pretty much people talking and having cocktails, and every now and then the shrews come and attack. So it tends to drag. Anyway, for getting further into the movie, dark falls and we finally get to see the killer shrews, the giant killer shrews that are roaming the island. They're actually coonhounds in hippie wigs. Ray Kellogg decided to use dogs for the effects and put them in makeup rather than using stop motion animation, rather than using up close, exclusively up close shots of hand puppets. And I've actually got to give it to them. It worked. From a practical standpoint, if you can suspend your disbelief enough, and they look really good. And even the up-close shots he did with the hand puppets looked really good. I would probably be curious to see the Technicolor version that came out. But I don't know. It would probably take a beer or 12 to watch it. Maybe want to watch it again. The shrews get into the house and they start killing off people one by one. And we find out that they're poisonous. So if you get a bite from them, if you get a scratch, anything like that, you're going to die. So now not only do they have to worry about being eaten, they have to worry about even being touched by these things. In the meantime, Jerry is getting more and more manic. He's the douchebag in the movie. He's jealous of Ann and Thorne, so he keeps making stupid decisions that put the entire group in danger. He's one of those that you really kind of wish they'd throw outside. You go over here and lure him away, and we'll run. But don't worry, we'll let you catch up. I have to say that by and large, this was not a good movie. And the biggest issue with it was the writing. Like I said earlier, the plot meanders quite a bit and drags quite a bit, and a lot of the lines are frankly very nonsensical. Anne actually has one line where she's like, Thorne, aren't you curious about all the strange going-ons here? Aren't you curious about the experiments? My accent? Bitch, you're Swedish. You told us you were Swedish. Why would we be curious about that? I think the giant shrews trying to kill us is a little more important than the way you talk. Just throwing that out there for you. The sound is very canned, and all the American actors and characters speak in that carnival barker dialect that was real popular in demand back then. So oftentimes they were speaking so fast and bad sound that you couldn't really understand some of the dialogue, which, considering how bad the writing was, may or may not have been a good thing. The music is really nothing you haven't heard before. I think they actually drag clips from other 20th Century Fox and Hollywood Studios monster flicks. The shrews don't really make a unique sound at all. Honestly, this is probably one of the most forgettable movies I've ever watched. I mean, I'm looking at notes here that I have, and I'm seeing things that I don't even remember that were killer points because I watched the movie a week ago, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of things about it that just didn't. Nothing with this movie actually really stuck out with me. So I can say it's another notch on my belt in the way of bad movies. I can't say that it's one that I really cared about. Probably what my biggest issue was is the fact that you didn't really give too much of a shit about any of the characters at all. And that really is kind of a killing point for me because I want to worry about whether or not the characters are going to all live. I want to worry about whether or not they're going to make it off the island. Show me characters that have some kind of weakness or some kind of damage. And Thorne being probably the worst of the entire group because he has no flaws. He's the dashing hero that shows up, and Anne falls in love with him instantly because he's the perfect man. And I had no doubt in my mind the minute he walked on screen, yep, he's going to make it. He's not going to get a scratch. There's not going to be any risk. He's going to know exactly what to do and how to do it. Even though he's never been in this situation before, he's going to act like he's done this 1,000 times. So, the movie was featured on the 4th season of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and then it was in the first season of another series that was called This Movie Sucks. Haven't seen that series, but I've seen MST3K plenty of times. So if you wanted to watch it with the robots making comments here and there, that probably would make it more enjoyable. Because Lord knows, watching it on DVD with nothing else going on, there's a few times I was passing out. I'm getting tired of talking about it. So I'd say that if you're a fan of the genre, if you're a fan of the time frame that this came out, go ahead and give it a look, if nothing else, so that you can say you've seen it. Don't expect to watch anything that's going to really stick with you. While this could have been quite the memorable movie, it actually turned more into something that it's almost as forgettable as the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out. Jeremy Irons, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that one. So I'm going to go ahead and slap this one 4 piles of shit. Why am I not giving it 5 or 6 piles of shit? Frankly, because the practical effects and the ambitious shots really saved this movie. Doing wide shots back then in a budget movie like this was very expensive, and he actually does quite a few of them. So I have to give him that. Also, I have to give him the practical effects on the shrews. Yes, they were done on the cheap, but it was one of those situations where it was less is more. So you really were able to get into it a little better as far as the scenes when the shrews were actually attacking. Those tend to be more the nerve-rattling scenes, even though Thorne had everything under control at all times. I would like to have seen more of the shrews. A little late for that, but you know, hey, if someone wants to do a remake, take notes, because there's all kinds of ways this movie could have been made better. So thanks for joining me. I hope you had a good time, and if you liked the video and you like beer in a movie, go ahead and click subscribe down below and hang out with me and Wes. We'll be drinking beer, watching movies. I will also be doing the solo reviews like today. You can also check out some of my writing. I did a trailer for Curious Incidents not long ago. That's also on this channel. That's a Sherlock anthology I was in, and you can find me on Amazon. So in the meantime, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. Even if they're bad comments, that's fine. If you're trolling, I'll probably laugh and think it's funny. Which I think is kind of the point of trolling anyway, isn't it? So until next time, I'm Jason with Fail-Flix, and hopefully very soon I'm going to have another shitty movie coming your way. Y'all have a good one. Take it easy.